All right. Episode 6 is an impromptu one, but this is me being raw and out there. And so I've had a lot of conversations and incidents. That's the reason that we're doing this today with members of my family. And I've always been made to feel bad for talking the way I talk and being who I want to be. And I was talking to Bria about it last night, and it's been weighing heavily on my head for 2 days now. It's literally been 2 days of me nonstop thinking about an incident that I had with my youngest daughter, Olive, a couple days ago. And I had that same incident with my ex wife. I had the same incident with my son. I had the same situation with my daughter, my oldest daughter. I've even the same situation with Bria, where I'm not a violent person. I don't like to fight. I don't like to hit. I don't like to be bad. I like to do good and be good. And so my entire life has been me realizing that deep down I'm just a good person. I don't like bad systems. I don't like bad people. And my weakness is I will call them or you out on being bad. Because I don't like bad. I like good. And that's why, so multiple times in my life, I've had to go against the flock. Like, I don't like pack people. I don't like herd mentality because that's where bad things happen. That's where bad ideas circulate. That's where bad things. So I've realized that I grew up in the church, and when I realized that the church was bad and the people in it were mostly bad, I went against the flock. I went against the herd. I did what's hard to do. And I said, I think you guys are kind of bad and the system's kind of bad. And I didn't really like the system. And that system kicked me out because the system wants to survive. And the people in the system like to sit and tell each other that they're good and give each other a safe space to hang out. But when somebody comes in and says, hey, maybe your guys' system is bad and the way you guys are acting is bad, most of the people in that system immediately fight the person and hate the person that's saying that you're bad, because how dare you say that we're bad and what we're doing is bad. But what I found in life is that most good people don't need to sit around in groups and tell each other that they're good and pat each other on the back. Bad people have to sit around in groups and tell each other that they're good and pat each other on the back to make themselves feel better. And that was kind of what church was. That's what a bad family environment is. And so the reason that I'm not married anymore is, so I was a good Christian. I was a good boy. I volunteered all the time. I had no sense of self. I had no sense of personal space. I was not allowed to be an independent thinker and be on my own. I was always told what to do. I was always told how to be. I was always working. I was always made to do things. If you weren't working and you weren't being productive, then you weren't a good member of the society. And so, as an adult, I've not wanted to do that. I've realized that human beings are not just the work that they do, they are the people that they become and the people that they choose to be, not the people that they play in society. And so, again, I was a good Christian, but when I realized that the Christianity stuff wasn't good and I started to try to challenge it, it kicked me out and abandoned me and left me for dead, which was fine. That was kind of what I did. I left that system. But then I got married and I had kids. And then I was in another system with an ex-wife who didn't support me, who didn't treat me very well, who used me. Like, I worked like 80 hours a day or 80 hours a week. I drove a taxi for the first 7 years that we were married, pretty much, and had kids. I drove a taxi 7 hours or 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. I would put in around 80 hours a week driving a taxi so that my ex-wife didn't have to work. I was married for 13 years and I had 4 kids with her. And when I started protesting the way that I was being treated and the way that our household was being ran, I was made to be bad. She made me feel like I was the worst person in the world, that I wasn't a good father, that I wasn't a good husband. Even though I worked like a dog, we took family vacations, I coached all of my kids' teams, And like literally, I've never missed a school function, I've never missed a sporting event. I take my kids to and from school every single day. They never have to not rely on that. I come home and I've been a single dad for 6 years because I had a step parent, and I absolutely never wanted to put my kids through having a step parent. My ex-wife like had random guys living at the house before she was married, and then she finally got married to a super awesome guy, and they have a super awesome amazing relationship. And so it's one of those like more power to them, but I didn't want to put my kids through that. So I've struggled as a single parent for 7 years trying to give my kids the best life that I could. Well, when my son got old enough and I started seeing bad tendencies in him and I started kind of challenging him, he ran away and never talked to me again. And same with my ex-wife. When I was like, man, I can't do this anymore. I'm working constantly. I want more out of my life. I'm a world conquering type. I want to change the world in my lifetime. And so far, I've been married to somebody who doesn't want to change the world, who just wants to go with the flow. And I have kids that I feel like none of them want to change or conquer the world. They just want to be kind of a part of the pack, and they want to be a kind of a part of that stuff. And so when I challenged my wife to be better and to try harder and to do more, she demonized me and made me out to be a monster, and nobody from that side of my family ever talked to me again. That's fine, because I've realized who those people were. Then when I challenged my son to be a better person and try harder and stop being like a superficial like I don't like Instagram accounts where you're flexing and showing off and trying to be fancy. So that was who he was in high school. And I started challenging that. Like, you need to be a better person. You need to, like, not be so superficial, not make. I'm fat. I've been fat my entire life. I know that my family and my kids have all been ashamed of me because I'm fat, because I'm a hardworking person. I've always tried to do my best, but yet my kids have always been ashamed of me, and the only thing that makes sense is because I'm fat. So I'm not sure how much that's affected my life as an adult, but I know it affected me as a kid. But it's one of those things, like, I've gotten to where I judge people based on how they judge me. I was telling Bria last night, like, I don't mind when people leave me anymore because I know that I'm a good person and I know I live a good, positive, clean life. So when people are around me and I challenge them on that, they magically all run away and leave. And they've all turned out to be like bad people, selfish people, rude people. That is my gift. I played a lot of poker, and my favorite thing sitting down at a poker table was I could easily tell the ignorant, like, small-minded men sitting across from me, and I knew I could pick at their sense of self and their sense of like manliness, and they would instantly crumble, and they couldn't take it. Like, it was funny. And so every single small-minded person that I've challenged on being a better person, they crumbled, they ran away, they couldn't talk anymore, they couldn't whatever. And so I've dealt with that with my ex-wife, I've dealt with that with my son, I've dealt with that with my oldest daughter, where essentially I challenge them and they just shut down and run away and can't can't deal with it. But none of them are that great of people. None of them are bad people, but none of them are trying to change the world. And none of them are trying to be bigger, better, more. And it's like, I don't know what that means, but I know that's the way I feel. Like, I see systems that I don't want to be a part of. I see things that I don't want to do. And instead of just being like, well, if you can't beat them, join them, I'm not a quitter. I don't want to quit. That's why me and Bria were sitting there last night. Like, I've never quit a conversation. Like, I don't. I've had so many people run out of the room while having a conversation with me, and it's like, that's so weird to me because I've never quit a conversation. I've never quit anything. I didn't quit my marriage, even though I was unhappy, and I didn't. I want to talk about that more. I didn't quit my marriage. My ex-wife quit because she was too unhappy with me being unhappy, and instead of changing and being a better person, she would rather demonize me and leave me, and so that was fine. And so I'm trying to figure out how to be a parent. I'm trying to figure out how to be an adult. I'm 45 years old, and there's no rule book for being a parent. There's no rule book for being an adult. I didn't want to be raised how I was raised, where I was given chores, I was told what to do. I felt scared all the time in my household because I never knew who was gonna like come out. Like I was literally hit and spanked. I was telling Bria that I sit and talk to my kids and I challenge them verbally, but they break down and act like I literally punched them in the face. But I just use words that are not nice and not okay and maybe hurt your feelings. But guess what? Words don't hurt as bad as a punch in the face. Words don't hurt your feelings as much as a punch in the face. So for me personally, I would rather challenge you mentally and challenge you verbally than challenge you physically. But every single person that I've challenged physically or verbally and mentally take the response as if it's a physical punch in the face. You hurt my feelings. You made me not feel good. That's fine. That's what being alive is. That's what being a human being is. And so I'll start with Bria. So Bria's been living with me for a year, or like been living with me for a year as kind of just since she's been out of school and me just kind of being like with Bria as like not a father trying to make her do stuff or have to worry about that stuff, but kind of more as a roommate because I never wanted to be a boss to my kids. I don't believe people need bosses. Bosses are just people that sit around and tell you what to do and pretend like they're important. I don't like bosses. I don't like parents. I don't like people who pretend to be important. I feel like we should be able to live in a society and live in a world where we're all equal and we just be good people. So in my household, even when I was married, I worked all the time. I was the one who cooked all the meals. I did most of the shopping. I did a lot of the cleaning. I still had to do a lot of the daily household functions. And when I would get irritated at my ex wife that she didn't do a lot, that she was always sick, always didn't feel like it, she was the type that always had to be going out and hanging out with friends and partying and doing stuff and kind of like occupying her time, not being in the house, taking care of things. And for me, I was always a parent first, taking care of my household was first. I didn't care about all of that other stuff. I cared about doing what needed to be done. So I always felt like I lived by a good example, and I just expected the people around me to be good people and to start being better. My son never did that. My oldest daughter never really did that. Now I'm assuming they're adults and they live on their own, so they have to kind of take care of that stuff. But so me and Brie have been living together now in this place for about 6 months. And she works 15, 20 hours a week, and she's only worked that for about a year. And there's no extracurricular activities, there's no trying hard around the house. And I've had that conversation where I'm like, this is tough for me because I have to work full time, I have to pay for all the bills, I have to take care of all the stuff. I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, I'm doing all the laundry, and that is irritating. And so it's like, I don't want to get irritated at the people around me, but then again, I don't want to have people around me that act like that. So a couple nights ago, Olive was back here, and she spends half her time with me and half the time with her mom. And again, she's my youngest, and I'm trying to be different and be better. And so I was not so good in the early years of my oldest kids' lives, but that's because their mom is not the same person as me. Their mom is not have the same philosophy on kids. Their mom is very much, I'm the grown up, do what I tell you. Here's your chore list. Even though I don't do chores, you have to have chores because I worked all day, and so you have to do all this kind of stuff. Where I never had that mentality. We're a household, we're a family, we're all supposed to work together. I was raised to like worship my parents and worship my grandparents, even though they weren't that great of people. I was forced to work all the time and tell my grandparents they're special and my parents they're special and I love them and I interact with them. When my son was in high school, I went through a thing. That's the reason that I do media arts today, is because of my son. My son was hanging out with his friends, playing with iTunes and iMovie on an iPad from school when he started middle school. They got iPads, and he was sitting around making beats and making videos. And so I ended up buying a computer and buying a microphone, and me and him would sit around and make beats, and we shot music videos. And I always wanted to interact with him that way. He was always ashamed of me. He never supported any of the videos. It was always like I was forcing him to do it with me. And once I quit forcing him to do it, he stopped doing it. My youngest daughter, I encourage her instead of laying around on her tablet watching YouTube videos. I really wanted her to create YouTube videos. Now, when I was a kid, if my dad was like, "Hey, you want to make hip hop beats and R&B stuff and shoot music videos?" that would have been the coolest thing in the world to me. But they acted like it was just nothing. If my parents came to me and was like, "Hey, instead of sitting around watching movies and wasting time, do you want to interact together as a family and create something for other people?" She could have cared less. She didn't give a crap. She was just like, "Whatever, I just want to watch YouTube videos and buy stuff." And so I feel like my kids have all been very superficial. They all want to be like, "I want to have the right stuff. I want to buy the right things. I need to watch the right stuff." And it's like, I've never wanted to do that. I've never wanted to be that person. So a couple nights ago, like, I leave Olive alone. She has her own room. She's got her tablet. I don't give her chores. I don't boss her around. I don't give her a hard time. Literally, I wake up in the morning. I take her to school. I pick her up from school. She comes home. She lays around in her room until it's time to eat dinner. I make dinner. I serve dinner. She eats dinner. She puts away her dinner plate and she goes back to her room. And that's it. That is every interaction, every day. Weekends, it's literally wake up, only come out to eat, lay in your bed, be on your tablet. And so a couple days ago, she came downstairs and we were making food. I had made dinner. I bought her I took her to the store because she was really mad and frustrated that she had to sit in the car for a half an hour and eat potato chips while waiting for her sister so that I didn't have to drive home, drop her off, and then come back and pick up her sister. That was really an inconvenience for her to sit in the car for a half an hour, and she was really mad. And so we went into Walmart, and I got her some potato chips. She got some candy. She picked out a dessert because she has dessert every single night because she deserves to have a dessert because she does so much. And so I feel like I would challenge them. And so when she came down, she had a really rough day. She was feeling really sad and depressed. So she asked her sister to make her dinner. Now, I had cooked the food. I had bought the food. I'd brought it home. I unloaded it and unpacked it while she went upstairs. And so it was one of those when she came down and I was sitting there and I was just like, wow. So I asked her, I was like, what gives you the right? What gives you the right as a human being to just have everything given to you and everything provided for you and you don't do anything? And so I just asked her that question, and she couldn't answer it. It was one of those like, whatever, I'm crying and I can't talk to you, and you're being mean to me, you're saying mean words, and you're hurting my feelings, and that kind of thing. And it's like, awesome, like, that's fine, that's great, feelings or whatever. You hurt my feelings when you treat me with no respect. So again, we've been recording these episodes now, and we had recorded a couple episodes before I did my what do you guys like to call it?
I don't know.
When I passive aggressive, I passively aggressively said something across the room of like, "Hey, Olive, you should follow the account that we created together as a family."
I do.
And she did follow it, but she's never liked a single video, and she's never shared a single video. But yet I see the videos that she likes and shares, lots of really awesome important things. And so again, it's really weird to me as somebody who is a good person trying to do good things, being surrounded by people who just want to be average, who just want to get by, who just want to do the minimum, who just want to use the people around them to get what they need and feel special and cool. And it's like, I don't know how to continue being a good person around bad people who want to make me feel bad for pointing out the fact that they're not being good. Because to me, like, Olive is not a bad person, but a person who doesn't do anything and relies on somebody for everything and doesn't engage whatsoever in a family. Like, to me, that you are acting like a bad person. You are being a bad person. That doesn't mean you're going to be a bad person forever, but you have to physically choose to change and not be a bad person, not be selfish, not be whatever. And human beings don't like to do that. So when I challenge my son and my daughter and my ex-wife and her family and my family, that hey, maybe you guys need to be a little bit better and not be shitty people who just pretend to be good, who sit around and tell each other you're good. That doesn't do anything. That doesn't solve any problems. And so that's been my thing, is I don't know how to continue being a good person with bad people around me trying to make me feel bad for calling them out. And that's been my entire life. And I don't know how to do it anymore. Because my daughter, or like Olive, would sit and, like, yesterday when we were having the fight and the argument, and again, I'm not trying, this is me. So they can interact after I'm done, and if they wanted to cut me off, fine. But this is me kind of again, I apologize. I apologize for not being the parent that I wanted to be when I was younger. But again, I didn't know what to do, because it was like I was in the church. I didn't agree with the church anymore, so I had to quit and leave it. Well, now I've made a commitment to be married and have children. And I never wanted to be the kind of father that ran out on his children. So I ended up being an unhappy, angry father that was trying to do his best and trying to make it work, while the people around me didn't support me, didn't encourage me. Like, after I had my stroke, my son didn't see me at all. He never came over and helped me. He never acted like he cared. And that was before he decided to stop talking to me. I'm pretty sure he decided to stop talking to me. We went on a ski trip, and it was the first ski trip that I'd been on after my stroke. And I literally almost like felt like I was gonna die. And I remember going back into like the building where everybody was hanging out, and I was pissed off at all of them because I just had a stroke. I was trying to like ski for the first time. I was stuck on the mountain for like a half an hour trying to get down the hill, and it was like everything I could do. And so still to this day, because it frustrates me, I've never wanted to be like the fat lazy person that people have to help. So I've always wanted to do more. And so I'm around people who are able to do more, but choose not to. And I'm trying to figure out, like I asked Olive the other day. I said, Olive, would you want me to only give you like an hour or two on your tablet, like the way that society and people and are like probably is right? Like that. And she said no, like she doesn't want to do that. And then I was like, do you want me to ground you and give you like a chore list? Or do you want me to give you a chore list and then give you punishments and ground you if you don't do your chores and all that kind of stuff? And she's like, no. And I'm like, okay, well then what else am I supposed to do? Because obviously living a good life around you and trying to be a good person and expecting you to do that too eventually, like that hasn't happened with any of my kids, my ex-wife, or any of that kind of thing. So I've kind of given up hope on people that are lazy and don't want to do anything around somebody who does a lot. Like they're always going to take advantage of that. So it's like I feel like I've never wanted to be the horrible shitty husband or father that ran away and wasn't there for his kids. I don't spend time at the bar and drink myself to death. I don't hang out and like no. Like literally I was always around my family. Still to this day I am nothing but a family person trying to rebuild my life and figure out who I am. And so, how do I have kids that I can talk to more than any adult has ever talked to me? I respect my kids more than any parent or person had ever respected me at their age. And they take advantage of that every step of the way. Like 2 days ago, me and my daughter got into it. I haven't really talked to my daughter for 2 days. She doesn't care. She doesn't interact with me for 2 days. She literally, I took her to school, doesn't say anything. Pick her up, doesn't say anything. It's not like there's the other night when I got onto her for try to be a better person and stop doing what you're doing. She just disappeared to her room and never talked to me again. And that's the way every person in my life has been. They just disappear and run away and never talk about it again, because that's easy. It's easy to not face your stuff. It's easy to not face your fears. It's easy to have someone be mean to you and run away and make them feel be bad and you be good because, oh, they just were mean to me. Oh, they said bad words to me. They hurt my feeling. We live in a community, our world today, where people with hurt feelings can sit around in a room together and talk about how their feelings got hurt by somebody. I know, because there's rooms full of people that sit and talk about how much I hurt their feelings and how much I said bad things to them. I'm sure Bria can attest to that, because when Bria left 2 years ago with me being a big, bad, mean person, I'm sure she got to go sit around in a room full of people that didn't challenge her to be a better person, that sat around and told her that I'm mean and that I'm bad and that they're all just good people who are trying to just live their good little lives. And that's, I mean, am I close?
I mean, you're not wrong.
I'm not wrong. Okay,
You're right.
so that's what I'm saying. So I don't need people to tell me a lot. Like when I was telling this stuff to Olive the other day, she was like, you're right," and that was it. That was it. And my ex-wife used to say that, "You're right." My son would never say anything. My son would always shut down. He was very kind of cowardly, and now he's very macho, and he works out a lot to pretend to be big and tough. But back then, he would shut down. Like, I was telling Bria the story that when I was a kid, I remember there was one time my dad wanted an answer out of me. He was asking me a question, and he spanked me. Then he asked me the question again, and I didn't give the right answer, and he spanked me. Asked the question again, like, that was the same thing that I ran into with Aaron. Was Aaron wanted me to give an answer that I didn't want to give, and I couldn't do it. And I've been in that place numerous times in my life where, like, a bad person is just trying to get me to admit that they're not bad, and I can't do it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about me, but it's like, sorry. So, I'm trying to figure out how to be a better person in a world that expects you to just get a shitty job, buy some, like my daughter, get a job, buy some rental properties, and retire, and take vacations. Like, that doesn't exist in our world. Like, I don't understand how normal people go through their lives not caring about other people. Like, I just don't, or pretending that they care about other people, but not really caring about other people. Because for me, I have a full Walmart outfit on. Like, so socks are from Walmart, pants are from Walmart, shirts from Walmart. And it's like, I've never been the type of person that I have to wear Louis Vuitton and I have to drive a Maserati and I have to, like, do all that kind of stuff. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. All of those people that only care about what they wear and how they dress and the way that people perceive them, that's nothing. Like, that's just make believe, that's pretend, and I don't go along with that. I don't like that kind of thing. I don't like superficial stuff. I don't like superficial people. And it's really hard for me to sit here and be like, I have superficial kids that I wanted to inspire, that I wanted them to be better, and they chose to quit and run away and just be average and just be like, I just want to be part of the herd. I want to be part of the pack. It's scary being by yourself. It's scary not having people around you that sit and tell you you're good. But I have to sit in a household and be around people that make me feel bad for being me while being. I have a cramp in my stomach from crying and I can't get it to stop.
Take a minute.
Good Lord. That is crazy. Like, I could feel it. I hate being fat. Someday I won't be fat. But my thing is I don't know if I really want to not be fat because I've heard about the way that people start treating you differently when you're not fat anymore. And I would be the type of person to call bullshit people out on being like, hey man, why are you treating me different now that I'm not fat, you know? So.
I think it's even that. It would just be like how uncomfortable it would be to just realize how like terribly you've been treated your entire life because of that one thing.
Oh, yeah. And I know because I've dealt with weight my entire life. Like when my parents got divorced, I think I started to get chubby then, but definitely when my first job, I started when I was 16 in high school. I was working 40 hours a week as a night supervisor in Junction City at a taco time and going to school full time because that's what I had to do it then to pay for my car and have money because my parents didn't give me stuff like that. And so it was literally like I spent my junior and senior year literally going to school during the day. I would go to work at 4 o'clock and I'd work till 10, and I would do that 5 days a week. And so sometimes I do it more because I'd pick up extra shifts on the weekends. And so it was one of those like literally that's how hard I worked. And as soon as I was done with school, I went straight to working on a farm where I worked like 100-hour weeks for like summers on end. And I've never had my kids have never had to feel like they've had to do that. But then again, I'm looking at like how do I was made to do that. I was made to feel like if I didn't work really hard and work really long and make a lot of money and take care of myself, that I wasn't worth anything. But to me, that's not how the world works. That's not how people works. That's make believe land. Like we all used to live together in communities, and nobody got to take advantage of anybody in that community because you all just survived together. There was no running away from your problems. Your community was your community. Your parents were your parents. And back when I was having a trouble with my son, he wouldn't have been able to run to his mom and have her tell him like, "Oh yeah, you don't have to talk to him anymore. If you don't want to talk to him, just don't talk to him." Like you couldn't do that in a normal community, and that's not a good person. And all of the other day, like her brother's not a bad person, but her brother's not a good person either. But she likes to think that her brother's a good person because, like she said, he comes around and buys her stuff and makes her feel special. But to me, that's not a good person because that's who my mom was. That's who my grandparents were. I only seen them a couple times a year. They would come around. It was a big special thing. We would go out to dinner and we would hang out and they would give us gifts and they would make us feel really special. But it's really easy as a parent now and as an adult to only hang out with somebody for a couple hours, spend $50 on them and make them feel special. That's easy. Being there every single day, doing things for each other and not caring about the world around you and who thinks you're popular and cool and who's your friend, that's make believe. Like all that stuff doesn't exist. It's how do you take care of your family? How do you take care of the people around you? How do you live in your day-to-day life with the people around you? Are you the kind of person that pushes your cart back after you're done with it, or do you leave it in the space next to you? When you're taking a walk out in the forest, do you throw your candy wrapper on the ground or do you put it in your pocket? Those are the our world is filled with those people. And unfortunately, there's more people in this world that want to drop the candy wrapper on their ground and then complain that somebody needs to pick it up instead of somebody actually being better, doing more, trying harder. And so I'm trying to push my kids to do more and try harder and be better. And I don't know how to do that. I don't know what to do. I've spent my entire life having to like be a part of a system and then stop and be a part of a marriage and then stop and then try to do something else and have to stop because I'm trying to figure out my place in the world. And I definitely know that I'm an advocate type. I don't like to see people doing wrong to other people. I don't like to see bad people thriving. That's why I want to start talking more about our society and our financial problems. We don't have a homeless problem in this country. We have a real estate problem. We have a corporations making money off of selling individual houses and rental properties to like low income people. Like that's a problem, not homelessness, because we're all just human beings. We're all just animals. And if it gives me, I guess I'm scared too, because if I can't live in a household where I'm a good person and I expect the people around me to be good as well, without being told what to do, without being threatened, without given a chore list, without being bossed around constantly, then what does that say for our society? Because I don't want a society where we have to live with bosses who are telling you what to do, police officers that are stopping you from doing what you want to do, or whatever. There, every level, there's somebody governing us and bossing us and telling us what to do. We are truly never free. And I want to be free. I want to create a society where people can be free. So if I can inspire my own kids to get out of bed and put their iPads down, then how can we inspire a world full of people to stop being shitty and selfish and start caring about other people? So this is a problem that I'm dealing with, that even inside my home, I've been surrounded by people that don't want to, like, they're not self-aware, they're not good people. Like, my ex-mother-in-law hates me because when I grew up with her in high school, the first time I went over to my ex-wife's house, the house was literally just full of garbage, piled higher than you could imagine. Every surface was garbage and clothes. It was a hoarder's house. You went in the kitchen, all the cupboard doors were open. There was nothing in any of the cupboards. Everything was on the counters. Everything was in the sink. There were dishes piled in the oven. Literally just a junk hole. And it was that way our entire lives. Like, I don't think she ever changed until she got, like, married, I guess, whatever. And so she was just this junk hole garbage of a person that would go to work, come home, smoke cigarettes, sit around on the phone and drink beer and complain about her life. And that was kind of who my ex-wife kind of became, was just this person that just went to work and came home and complained about her life and complained about the people in her lives. And it was one of those where I didn't want to live in that world. But the more I kind of protested that world, the more those people made me feel like I was a monster, because I was like, you pretend like you're a good person, Julie. You sit there and act like you can, like you're a good mom. But she was a horrible mom. She never was a good mom to Shannon. She was never a good mom to her son. The only way that her son didn't turn out to be an absolute degenerate was when he was like 14 years old. She shipped him off to live with his grandmother because he went to juvie. And then his grandmother put him in and out of military school until he was old enough to work in a mill for the last 15 years. But yet, according to their family, he's a really good person, And so it's like, I don't like that. I had a problem with that kind of stuff. I didn't like people being rude and mean and just like closed-minded and segregated and all that kind of stuff. And so I challenged my ex-wife. My ex-wife's father moved to Idaho during the pandemic to get away from the horrible mask-wearing liberals in Oregon, because he's a WWF-loving, NASCAR hunting, football sports junkie of a person. But guess what? He has a good job and he makes decent money, and that's about it. And so I started challenging him that I don't want to respect this person. I don't want to act like this person is a good person, because this person doesn't treat us good. But yet she made it seem like I was the mean person for being like, I think these people can be better. I think we can be better as a whole, as a family, as a society. But I felt trapped around a bunch of people that were literally just like, we're really all good people and we all hang out together and tell each other we're good people. It was the same thing that I did in church. Church was just a bunch of people sitting around. Whoa. Yeah.
Well, you can't just sit here and lick yourself.
Church was literally just a bunch of kind of bad, mediocre people sitting around every week telling each other they're good, and that the people who don't believe in them and are not nice to them are just evil and mean devils or whatever. And it's like I've just seen that over and over again. And so that's part of the reason that this is a podcast that I'm doing. This is challenging conversations for everybody, and I would like to have as many challenging conversations with as many people as I can. I'm not a quitter. I don't want to give up. I don't want to not have conversations, but I've found that the people who are not good don't like to have conversations with me. People who are afraid of what I'm going to say won't have conversations with me. And to me, those kind of people are not the good people. They're not the nice people. They're people that are trying to protect themselves or play a character in the world. That's my thing. I don't like characters. If I see somebody playing a character, I'm going to poke at that character, because that's what I've seen a lot at poker. Poker would have people coming in playing their poker characters, and it was the funnest thing in the world. I was a taxi driver for a long time. We're going to talk about that on Saturday with Justin. I've had more conversations with more people in my lifetime than anybody. Between sitting at poker tables and driving a taxi and having conversations with tens of thousands of people, and it was amazing because most people love me. Most people admire what I say and the things that I challenge them on. And I found that those were all of the good people. And then when I started poking at people or having conversations with people who weren't good, who were playing characters that were trying to be good, who had a facade or were pretending, and I would start to talk how I talk, they would immediately become offended. They would immediately become hurt and usually become very defensive and get very angry. And we've talked about this in the beginning with like the Grace situation. And so I see it coming with Olive. I mean, it's one of those, I hope it doesn't, but it's one of those, like, I encourage her too. She doesn't have to come here. If living at her mom's house and being around other people is better, then I encourage that. Because I don't want to have to get angry. And that's what I realized, that I am in control of me, but I can't control what other people do around me. I can only control how I react to it. Now, I don't hit them. I don't get. I don't even really. That's the thing. Was when I confront them, they all say that I'm getting mad at them and I'm yelling at them and whatever. Which maybe I am.
I mean, you are getting
I, I mean, I'm not getting. I'm getting
saying
upset.
that.
I'm getting irritated. Again, it's human language. Yeah. It's vernacular. You can spin it 1,000 different ways. But I'm saying I'm not. I'm coming to a place where it's like I haven't said anything for a while.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed since the last time I kind of said something. I still haven't implemented rules. I still haven't implemented punishments and consequences, and nothing's changed. And I've done that for 20 years now. I did it with my oldest kids. I did it with my middle kid. And Bria is getting better. I will say that today we came home and Bria was straight up just cleaning the house, you know? But that's what you should do. We all should be taking pride in our home. And I never felt like my kids have ever taken pride in our home. They've never taken pride in our family. They've never wanted our family, like, I've never wanted to go out and just be like, hey guys, I'm going to go be successful now. And I don't care, you know, like if I'm a bad person, because that's what you have to do. Like, oh, I work all the time, so I never get to see my kids and I never get to do anything. Or, hey, I want to go be successful. You guys are too much of a drag on me, so I'm just going to abandon you and leave and go do my own thing, because that's easier. It's much easier. It's probably like I could be successful and not have people around me that make me feel bad. But it's like, I don't want to live in my own house being a good person, being taken advantage of. So it's like, I don't mind doing most of the things for my kids, but I also want to feel like they appreciate it, they don't just use it, and that eventually they want to be good people as well and be a part of our household. And so that has been my biggest struggle, is how do you do that? And I want suggestions from people. I want suggestions from my kids. Because again, if I can't ask them how to make you be a better person without punishing you, because again, I don't know if I am a good person today because my parents beat me, because my parents made me live in a cult where all I could do is work, and my only sense of self and success was how much I earned, how much I worked, how much I made, or whatever, you know? It was never how much I created, how much I, you know, like, figured myself out, or how much do you, like, Again, I want my kids to be able to. I got my daughter a tablet not so that she could sit and do inappropriate things on it, which we've had that battle too, like literally doing some of the most inappropriate things that I would ever imagine someone doing. She has done on a tablet or on a device, but yet I still haven't taken that away from her because I still want her to give the chance to be a good person, to be better. But it's like still all she wants to do is figure out ways to talk to people that she shouldn't talk to, figure out ways to send pictures that are inappropriate or do things that are inappropriate. And it's like I'm hoping that sooner or later, because I know that I didn't have access to anything that my kids have access, especially her. She has access to more things that any of my kids have than I have, and it hasn't made a better person because of that. It hasn't made a more accomplished person because of that. And so it's like, what do we do? Because it's like being mean and yelling at your kids made me, but me trying to not make my kids have to do what I say and go to church and have to listen to everything like that I tell them to do, and then give them here's a portal to the world, here's a portal to art, here's a portal to learning, here's a portal to helping people. And it's always just been look at me, I want more stuff. Like my daughter was very superficial, only posting pictures online of look at me, I'm pretty, look at me, I'm doing things. That's it. And to me, that's like, what is that? That's pointless. That's nothing. That's literally putting bad things out into the world. Like, oh, hey, you don't get to be like me? Well, look at me. That's not making people feel better. That's not helping the world and making the world a better place. We don't need shitty influencers out there that are like, look at me wearing these new clothes. Look at me driving my new car. Look at me drinking this new drink. While someone's dying of exposure and some little kid has an extended belly because he has worms. But hey, you've got a cool car, and hey, you've got a nice iPad, and hey, you have desserts, and you get to have a bad day. Can you imagine how bad of a day it is to fucking get beat in the head when you get home and starve to death? Can you imagine how bad of a day that is? No, you really can't, because you think your iPad not working and the internet being down is a really bad day. Having someone be mean to you at school, I had a really bad day, you know? Like, we don't even fathom what having a bad day is like. And then just being able to shut down, do nothing, and have other people tell you who also had a bad day and don't feel like doing anything. Oh, we're not going to challenge each other. We're going to pacify each other and tell each other that, oh, you're good and I'm good. And we had a really bad day. Ooh, someone was mean to you. Someone was mean to me too. Let's sit around and talk about that all night. Like, that doesn't do anything for anybody, and it just lets you sit and live in your horrible world. And so it's like, that's my conversation. So you guys don't have to say anything. You can say anything you want. And we're just going to keep going on. But it's like, that was, I got on, I had the thing with Olive the other day, and it's been weighing heavy on me. And like Bria said, that Olive would come talk to me, and I was like, nope, she won't, because her brother didn't come talk to me, her mom didn't come talk to me, her sister didn't come talk to me. So far, Bria is the only one that's came back and talked to me. But Bria is the only one out of our family that kind of doesn't get along with everybody else in a sense. She's not superficial like everybody else. Yeah, she likes to shop. Yeah, she likes to have nice things. But she's more like me, where she's more individualistic and she doesn't really care what other people think about her as much. Like, again, I grew up super religious, so I didn't care what people thought about me. I was the weird religious kid who dressed, didn't have nice things. My parents were poor. They made sure that I was poor and knew it, and they made sure that everybody around us knew that we were poor. And so I was the poor Christian weirdo that didn't get a. But then again, I also got along with a lot of people. But it was this weird thing where people would make fun of me for being the poor Christian kid, but then they would also like me because I was a nice person and I was cool and I was fun to hang out with. Just like me now. I like to listen to fun music and party and do fun stuff, and I don't like grown-ups telling me what to do. But yet, every person around me, I don't, as far as like my kids go, like to pretend that and so the only thing that goes back to is I'm fat. Like superficial people who really care about how they look and how they are perceived project themselves onto somebody like me and treat me really horribly because I'm fat and because they are very superficial themselves. Like skinny people who think that they're fat and who worry about their little problems don't know what it's like to actually be a fat person who struggles with being fat, but yet has to still actually participate in life and do things and be functioning. And I can't just be like, I'm fat, I'm sad, people are mean to me, I don't want to do anything. No, I've never wanted to be that person. I'm not a quitter. I've never been a quitter. I will never be a quitter. I do not like quitters because quitters that doesn't go anywhere. That's why, like, I still haven't talked to my son in, like, what, 5, 6 years now? Because he's a quitter. Because he just quit a conversation, decided that that's easier than owning up to something, and and I tried to talk to him numerous times after he decided that he didn't want to talk to me anymore. Ran away from me, threw coffee in my face, threw coffee on his sister. Like literally, it's at the 4th of July. Olive was sitting below me and I was standing above her, and he threw a hot cup of coffee in my face because he didn't want to talk to me because I was trying to talk to him. And it was like, that's not a good person. I don't care what people say. Somebody who does that is not a good person. I don't like my dad. My dad didn't inspire me. My dad hasn't done anything for me as an adult, but I've never disrespected him. The only time I ever disrespected my mom was when she came at me. Like, the only thing I would look at as disrespecting was kind of putting her in her place and speaking up for myself and defending myself. That was me disrespecting my mom, and that's been the first time that I've ever really disrespected my mom, was straight up just being an individual trying to speak up for myself. And so yeah, and so that's what I wanted to say today. And I don't know where this is going to go from here. I don't know if Olive, she kind of butted in, and if she wants to say anything, I encourage her to say anything if she wants to, because I want to have conversations. Again, shutting down and doing nothing and continuing to be the same people doesn't do anything for anybody in this world. And that's what I've never understood. Every boss that I've challenged to be better shut down and fired me. Or me and Justin are going to talk about how I literally almost lost everything because I was trying to unionize Oregon Taxi and bring the workers together so that we could get paid better. And I was fighting through that while going through a divorce and having a stroke, trying to unionize the workers. And at the first sign they were able to cancel my contract, they canceled my contract. And the same sort of thing happened with my wife. It was like in my kids. And it's like here I am again in the same position where I'm trying to be different. I'm trying to be better and be more. And I don't know what to do. Like, I literally am at a loss.
Do you want to say anything?
I don't know. Because I did have an argument with my dad 2 days ago. And yes, I feel horrible for it. I really do. And when he stated that I haven't cared that he hasn't talked to me in the past 2 days, I really care. Because I miss my dad, and I love my dad. He's my favorite parent. He's always been my favorite parent. And I definitely, wanted to, but I never really knew where to start. And I talked to him this morning talking about times to meet up with my friend because we have a whole project that we're doing at school. And even though he doesn't know, but he inspired me to do that project because he was always talking about, hey, there's other kids going through things that you are going through things. And that they're having a harder time. And so he inspired me. Me and my friend started making jewelry to be able to sell and raise money for St. Jude's Research Hospital. And that's what we're doing of ours were spending 5 hours out on the corner of the street selling things that we can make money for.
Awesome. Yeah, you're right. I don't know about things that you don't tell me about. So, like, that's awesome. Like, I encourage that. Like, first of all, I don't want to be your favorite parent. You shouldn't have a favorite parent. Like, that doesn't exist. That I don't want that. Like, that's not something that is a real thing. So it's one of those, like, I don't know, like, that's weird, but I don't know. I don't know. So I'm glad I'm inspiring them. I'm glad that hopefully we can start, like, again, all I can judge people on is how they act around me. Like, I will have lots of people tell me that they're good in other places, and I don't know that, because then again, I don't know what you're doing in other places. All I do is know how you are around me. But yes, that's why I'm doing this podcast. That's why I encouraged Olive to make, like, I really wanted her to make cool little, like, stories and stuff where she could, like, instead of being like no substance making, like, little Polly Pocket stories on YouTube, like, make something real, do something inspirational, and, like, challenge other people, because most of the world is selfish. Most of the world just wants to get by. Like, that's literally why, like, people are rich, and like why it's so hard for, like, nonprofits to be successful, because corporations are powerful and they're absorbing entities that use people and exploit. People who are trying to do good have much harder of a time to do it, because animals are selfish, animals exploit the world around them, animals use everything that they can without thinking about it. Animals don't give very much. They don't try to go out of their comfort zone. That is something that is a human trait. But inside the human world, we have human beings that are still just being animals. They're still just using other people. They're absorbing all the resources. They're using everything around them, and they don't give very much back. They don't help very many people around them. And that is what I don't want to be a part of. I don't want to be a part of working at a job and having a 401k and buying some rental properties, taking some vacations where people wait on you and serve you, and then retiring. Like, that doesn't exist in the animal world. That was invented by us humans. And so I want to live in a world where we can all just, like, help people and be good people, and not have to live in a world where everybody has to have rules and be told what to do and told how to live. And that's what I'm trying to do with my kids. But I've never seen it actually fully develop in any of them. And Olive's now 12 years old, and I still feel like there's not a lot that she's passionate about. There's not a lot she's going for. And it's like, I don't know. So if I wanted to have an Olympian at this point, I would have had to start when she was 5 years old, telling her what to do, how to do it, and she would have no choices. And most kids who are like that, who you think are super awesome, who got to grow up being like athletes and whatever, most of them are super unhappy. They wish they could just go back and live a normal life like a normal person and hang out and do normal things. But it's like, how do you be great? It's like all the great people that were forced to be great, but talk about wanting to just be normal. Then you have all sorts of normal people that talk about wanting to be great, but are just normal, like everyday, don't ever try hard kind of thing. So I'm like, how do I have my kids? Because I've always wanted to be great. I've always wanted to conquer the world. That was my mentality. None of my kids seem like they want to do that, except for, I want to be rich and famous, and I want to have a lot of houses, and I want to own lots of cars, and I want to do lots of stuff. And to me, that's not the same as I want to make the world a better place. And so we need more people who want to just make the world a better place instead of trying to be selfish and do that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, it's awesome. I'm glad Olive's doing that tomorrow. And I don't want her to be upset. And I don't want to, that's why I haven't talked to her, because normally in this kind of situation, when we would have one of these things, either A, I would just get over it and they would pretend like it didn't happen and things would just go back to normal until the next time that I got irritated. And then I feel bad again and it's this vicious cycle. Or I would come to them and talk to them. And I didn't want to do that, partially because I wanted to be on camera. I'm tired of having these kind of conversations with people that end up going nowhere, and I end up feeling like a bad person in the end, and they get to go off and make me feel like a bad person. And so it's like, dude, all of those conversations with any of the people in the past, I would actually like to have them on camera. Like, yeah, I know I was red-faced and yelling and using obscenities at one point in my life. I try not to do that anymore. That's why it's like, I project my voice a lot, I talk a lot, and people take that as yelling and being mean sometimes. But it's like, I know there were times in my life where I was straight up red-faced yelling. Like, I've never been violent. I've never gotten over to the point where I was past yelling and I was starting to hit people and break things. Like, I've never done that. I never have had the feeling of I want to punch somebody or I want to throw something and break something. Like, I maybe a few times in my life, but I've never done it. Like I was telling Bria, like, her mom punched me more than I punched her because I didn't punch her any times, and she punched me twice. Like, literally as hard as she possibly could, 2 different times in our marriage, because she was angry at me, because she was frustrated at me, because I'm getting on to her, and her only thing in retaliation was to hit me. And it was like, I've ran into that numerous times with people where I like to talk, I like to call you out on not being a good person, and the not good people like to try to hit me. And so it's like, I don't get that whole thing, but. And so it's like, I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to do different. I want Olive to have a better life than I had and have more opportunities than I had. But I also feel like she's squandering some of those and abusing some of those. And I don't know how to redirect outside of having a conversation. This is what I do, is I talk. I've talked to all the people around me for my entire life. I enjoy talking. I enjoy having conversations. And ultimately, I will call somebody out on bullshit too if that comes up in the conversation, because that's just what it is, and people don't like that. And so, but I wanted to have this conversation with Olive in front of the camera and kind of get all this stuff out and talk about what it's like being a parent and not wanting to dominate your kids and make them feel scared of you or whatever. Or I know my kids have been probably scared of me because they would see me be angry and afraid of me. But it's like, I've never once, I mean, I used corporal punishment a few times because my ex-wife was into corporal punishment. So my twins got spanked a few times when they were younger. I can't remember if I ever spanked you. Maybe once. I know Olive's never got spanked by me. I don't know if she's gotten spanked by her mom.
I have.
Oh yeah.
But I've never spanked her before. And so it's one of those, like, all of my kids have had different versions of me with different versions of their mom and different versions of corporal punishment, easy parenting, and all that kind of thing. So far, I have 3 kids who have graduated high school and are all functioning members of society. Are any of them going to take over the world for goodness? I don't feel like that, but hopefully. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I'm trying. I'm doing my best, and I want to be open. I want to be raw. I want my kids to be like, hey, Dad, I want to yell at you, so let's get on the podcast so I can do it on air. Because maybe there's somebody else that's listening to this that gets something out of it, or that can help them, or maybe I can go back in 10 years and watch it, like, I don't know. I just want this out there, and I want to at least start having conversations that can help other people, that can help me, that can help my kids, that can help society. And it's like, I'm not trying to get rich and famous. I don't care about, like, I don't want to start, like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't want to start something because whenever anybody starts something, they end up like that. Like, I'm starting a business to get rich, or I'm starting a country to take over the world, or I'm starting a religion to take over the world. And it's like, I don't want to take over the world with a religion. I don't want to take over the world with the government. I don't want to take over the world with like guns and fighting and that kind of shit. Like the Civil War, in order to change things for the better, has never worked in the past. So it's like, how do we change the world and be good? How do we make, instead of being like superficial and rich cool, being a good person cool? How do we make confronting bad people for being bad and selfish cool and good instead of being the bad thing? Because again, bad travels faster than good. Lies travel faster than the truth. Lies stick easier than the truth. People don't like to hear the truth. They like to hear lies. They like to hear made up stuff. They like to hear propaganda and that kind of thing. Like, for some reason, it plays into our animal nature, and I don't like that. And so I want to start moving in a direction to be a better person, surrounded by better people who are trying to make the world a better place. Like,
Is there anything else you want to add?
I think we should just wait. I got that out.
Good old things.
We'll have a conversation with Justin on Saturday about Oregon Taxi and a big chunk of my life that I spent trying to start something else. And then we can kind of get back to like family stuff. And it's like, or whatever we want to get back to. There was a woman that I picked up today. I brought it up to her, and it didn't really go anywhere. I didn't give her my card because I didn't have one, and I didn't want to ask her for her number. But I picked her up at like a donation center, and she was one of the managers there. And I was like asking her like how it worked, because it wasn't one of those like Goodwill places.
Yeah.
It was more like an independent thing, and they were definitely like, there's only 2 of us employees that run the place, and we all take minimum amounts of money, and that way we can sell all of the items at a much cheaper price than like Goodwill or St. Vincent de Paul's or something. Like, literally, like, trying to keep. Back when I was a kid and you would go into one of those kind of places, you could walk in there with like $5 and come out with a whole new wardrobe, because everything was like 25, 50 cents, $1. Now you go into Goodwill and they're pretty much trying to charge like retail prices for donated goods while underpaying employees so that a corporation can make millions of dollars a year.
Horror stories about Goodwill.
Yeah,
Like,
no, and
so
that's what our
many.
world is made up with, is these nice places that pretend to be good while they're corrupt money hoarding entities. And that's what I don't want to be a part of. I don't want to go out and try to be a part of what somebody else is doing, because I don't know if what somebody else is doing is self-serving and trying to make them be political, or maybe they're trying to whatever. I see so many fake people on my Instagram or Facebook that I know from this town who are trying to be political, and I'm just like, you're just a bad, rich, business-owning person that is political just because you think that's what you're supposed to do. That's the next step.
That's what rich people do.
But that's what rich people do, and that's my thing. That's another one of my, like, our government is supposed to represent us.
It's the next level of rich, Dad.
Yeah, and that is. It's like, once you get rich, you have to go into politics, because that's where the real money and the real power is. So people who want to own businesses also want to feel powerful. And so you have to eventually go into government, because that's where all the money and the power is in government, And so that's our problem. Our world is just filled with money, corrupt, like, that kind of thing. And so I don't know where I was going with that. I don't remember what I was saying. I lost my train of thought.
We were talking about Oregon Taxi with Justin on Saturday.
Well, yeah, I was just talking about corporations and Goodwill, and just trying to like not be a part of corruption. But yeah, I don't remember where I was going with that thought. But
sounds like the end.
Yeah, we're done. All right, thanks. See you later.